Plant time. So Lixt has also a plant question. Why do some plants survive for so long without watering them? An excellent question. Firstly, the plant themselves can adapt to storing water or surviving with minimal intake of water. Rama, thanks for following. And Chan, thanks for following too. So some plants can store water in their cells. So we call those plants succulents. And there's several types of succulents. You can have a really succulent stem, so your stem swells up and gets really thick. And your leaves could get really thick and swell up and store water. Or you could have a really thick, swollen root. And you can store water in your roots. Now, you think of cacti and succulents. Like this plant has really thick leaves. And so these leaves are real thick. And they see how they have these kind of ridges on them? See the lines that it has? Those little lines are the lines of like expansion. So this can become real thick and full and round. But when it dehydrates, it kind of closes in on these lines. A lot of cacti have that. If you look at cacti ribs, you don't eat cacti ribs. But the cactus can shrink and swell. Isn't that fun? Shrinking and swelling. This, yeah, sometimes looks like aloe vera. So aloe vera is a succulent. This cactus has these ribs. And the plant can shrink and swell depending on how much water it gets. Additionally, it's evolved a lot of mechanisms to be able to hold water. And then some plants, if you have you can have soil that helps them maintain water too. But Yoban, yeah. If it, if it has a BBL, it means it can store more water. So Yoban, you might like this one. This one has a BBL. This one has a thick stem that stores water. And so if a plant stores water, then it's called a succulent. Now this one probably we wouldn't traditionally call it a succulent, but it has a caudex. This big thing is, the big swollen stem is called a caudex. Yeah, real thick. This is your BBL plant. This is an orchid. That stem is thick. Yeah, that's right. We like that. So, some plants are actually kind of succulent that you might not realize. Like this orchid. This orchid lives in trees, in bark mulch. It's growing in mulch right now. No soil. Take a look at that big, thick thing here. This is a piece of stem tissue called pseudobulb. You can see I paid $31.99 for this one. This shrinks and swells, so I watered the hell out of it so it'd be real smooth looking. But if I forget to water for a month, then it will use the water in here and become all wrinkly. Look at this big old thick thing. Yeah. Licked bright. Speaking of cacti. Yeah, so Licked, you got some great questions, and I have a photo for you. So, Licked Bright asked a question and said, hey, some people chop off parts of cactus and attach them to other cactus. How does this work? You know? Well, that's called grafting. Grafting is really fun. What you do with grafting is that you take a plant that has vascular tissue. So inside the plant, there are channels to move water and move sugars, usually down. So there's xylem and phloem. So they have this little piping that moves waters and sugars and nutrients around. And in cacti, you can actually, cacti are really easy to graft. Because is Godric the grafted, a human that is a person that has grafted different parts together? To graft something is to connect different bits and pieces. So with cacti, you can make them callus. See this cactus on the left here is kind of dying and it's rotting? Well, I think we told JKR the other, like a week or two ago, when you have this, maybe you can still save the plant. So cut the top off and then let it callus. And then after 2 weeks, it'll heal itself. But before it's fully healed, you attach it to here with rubber bands, and the vascular tissue will connect itself. Because these are all gelatinous and kind of mucilaginous and wet, it's really easy to do it. And you can do it with other plants too. Most people do grafting with fruit trees. Because I think maybe Delaluk mentioned it, an apple tree that had a bunch. Oh, it was Joe. Okay, great. Thank you, JKR. Sorry about the confusion. But Joe had asked about that. Quite odd that cactus can heal themselves. A lot of plants can do that. If a plant has a drier inner tissue, should it be moistened? Yeah, depends. Yeah, Sassy Frog. So if you're grafting, then you do want to keep it moist, so it can kind of heal. Let's take a look. It is fascinating. So, Sabrina, if I were stranded in the desert, could you stay hydrated with a cactus? Not really. The cacti have chemical compounds in them that actually will be quite painful if you consume them. They're type of, sometimes they have alkaloids, so, but sometimes there's other things like little crystals that will hurt you and damage you. So no, you can't really survive off of cactus. If the cactus has fruit, then go for it, right? Yeah. Yeah, you can drink cactus fruit, but you can't just drink the stuff. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Inadvisable. I have something to share you. Yeah, you can't really stick a straw in there. Believe it or not, that's not real. But just to talk about what Lichtian was talking about is that you can only graft certain plants that has vasculature that aligns. So hydrate for plant avatar. We're gonna hydrate the orchid. There we go. Okay, so hey Joe, how you doing? You can hydrate, not hydrate the plant. If the plant has vasculature that aligns, like the xylems on the inside and the phloems on the outside, this is the cross section of a stem, then you can connect them. This is air layering. So Sassy Frog, you were saying, hey, if you want to get, like, help it heal. So this is a stem that we want roots to come from. So you can apply a hormone to it. You cut off the outer layer, apply a hormone, and you keep it wet with this moss. Crappy day. Oof. I'm sorry to hear that. I know several folks are not having the best day today. But, you know, hopefully we can all improve our days together. Hydrate, thank you. Forte's giving a hug, sending a hug. Coca-Cola. Hey, how's it going? I wanted to show you grafting. This is stem cuttings. This is give me a second. These are cuttings. Callus tissue. Where's my grafting section? This is the grafting section. Okay. Grafting is when you take a plant that has roots and then a piece of a plant that has no roots. The plant that has no roots is called a scion, and the rootstock is a part of the roots. And you connect them, getting their tissue to align. But the important thing is that you can't do it with plants that are monocot. So you cannot do it with palm trees or grass or aroids. You can't do it with arums because they have random bundles of scattered, like, vascular tissue. But in dicots, like cacti and apple trees and peaches and plums and breadfruit, they have vascular tissue in rings. They start off as little bundles and then they spread and connect and they become rings. So you cannot do it with the random ones. You have to do it with the dicots. You can graft in lots of ways, though. There's a cut graft where you cut a little piece of the bark and you stick it in and get the tissue to align. There's a cleft graft where you make a cleft and you stick it in and keep it wet. Loaf of breadfruit. Eternal ellipsis. There's a fruit from Polynesia called ulu, and English-speaking people call it breadfruit because it is like eating it is like eating bread. It's a good source of energy. Crown. There's lots of ways to. Split is my favorite. Splice graft. Get the exact same angle, connect them, and keep them wet. Tongue. That one's hard to do. Approach. This one's crazy. I've never seen anyone do it. Lich bride. Injecting someone with blood type A, but can't have type B. Kind of. So lich, the plants are more likely to properly graft and connect if they're the same like species or genus or even family. So if they're closely related, they're more likely to connect properly. These are tomatoes. So the tomato rootstock was like disease resistant, super good roots, and then the top of the tomato approach now kick. Yeah, the top of the tomato is the one that has the tastiest fruits, but the roots are weak. So we grafted them. And these little plastic things are the things that help keep them together while they're connecting. This one made roots at the top. Grafting is not necessarily used to make different types of plants. It's mostly used to enhance plants. So in this example with the tomatoes, the top of the tomato has like amazing fruit, but because we bred the tomato to have amazing fruit, the roots get tons of diseases and the roots are not strong. And so what we did was we took the roots of a tomato that is robust and disease resistant and can pull lots of nutrients, but that tomato doesn't taste good. So we put the good tasting tomato on top of the one that's good at pulling roots. Give them a vaccine. Kind of. It's a close analogy. We're combining two plants. So we're taking the best part about one plant and the best part of another plant and combining them. But the thing is that once this plant is gone, you know, it's not going to make seeds that have those good roots and then those good fruits. So you have to grow both separately and then connect them. So we threw away the top of the rootstock and we threw away the roots of the scion. Sometimes they don't work. Like this one died. When we were in Hawaii. It's even in North America in like temperate areas and Europe. If you have avocados are a great plant to practice on because they grow easily from the seed, and most people have avocados, at least in Texas. And then they're real thick, so you can practice grafting. So this is a good technique. You can see that you want the top to be growing the leaves and the bottom not to be growing the leaves. So, and then this one, the top died, which is the part we wanted, and then the bottom started growing like crazy, which is not what we want. There's tools for this. Anyway, okay, there's my little grafting spiel. You know, to be able to combine the things such that you get good success takes lots of practice. Alchemy, but for botany. It's the closest thing to alchemy for botany. That's right. It's art pop. How would you make a bonsai? Sabrina. Bonsai. Bonsai, from the Japanese word meaning to grow in a shallow pot. Bonsai is any plant that you grow in a tiny dish. So Sabrina had a good question about bonsai trees. Bonsai it's an art form more than anything else. Favorite Hawaiian plant? Zira. Kupu kupu. I love kupu kupu. I love what it means. I love little fern. I love its hardiness. So let's look at the bonsai, and then I'll show you kupu kupu. But bonsai is any plant you grow in a small pot. Usually, you choose a plant that has really tight nodes. So the leaves are real close together, and the leaves are real small. The thing about bonsai is that they don't have a lot of soil. So if you don't give a plant room to grow, it's not going to grow. If you don't have roots, lots of roots spreading, then it's not going to get very big. It is a little small tree. Any plant can be bonsai. It's not a specific species, but often you see Japanese and even, East Asian plants bonsai as bonsai. But you could even do it with this one. This is just a fig. This is just a fig that someone has grown in a particular way that looks like bonsai. And it is in a relatively small pot. This is more what you would see for bonsai, like a small dish. Now this is artificial. But what you do with these plants is you use wires. So to get this form, look how the branch is going down. What they did was they had this plant growing in a greenhouse and or somewhere, and then they had little wires. Can I make this bigger? What they did was they attached wires to the branch and they pulled it down. So as it was growing, they pulled it down to give it the shape. There are names for different shapes of bonsai, and it's truly an art form. And it's also challenging because as there is minimal soil, the plants can dehydrate quickly. You have to water them appropriately. Now this one's covered in moss, so presumably it has a lot of access to water. They might have it on a sprinkler. There's a lot of drama surrounding your favorite MMO right now. Pretty serious. Oh, interesting. Which MMO? It is, so it's like a small tree. So any plant can be bonsai. And then 0. This is my favorite Hawaiian plant. The narrow leaf sword fern. Kupu kupu means to sprout forth. I love the shape of the plant. I love the leaves. I love the way that the fern grows and unfurls its fronds. I like the way it spreads. Yeah. Zira, do you have a favorite Hawaiian native or assimilated plant? I really like Pohinahina. That's my number 2. But this is number 1. Look at that. I love the way they grow. You just got into kintsugi, and now you want the bonsai in a fixed pot. Ooh, nice. That's exciting, Seabaz. Darian, an afternoon delight. Kupu Kupu bonsai. Making this little fern bonsai would be crazy. I think it works mostly with woody plants. But I suppose it could be done. Let me see if there's fern bonsai. I guess fern trees. Rabbit's foot fern, yeah, that makes sense. This is a good one for bonsai. Rabbit's foot fern has this rhizome, the stem that's white and looks like little rabbit's feet. That one would work pretty well. I don't know, I've never considered it. Asparagus fern, this is an asparagus. I like this. This is pretty. I love ferns a lot. They're hard to grow. If I lived in California or a tropical area, I'd grow the hell out of ferns. I would be a fern guy. If I live in a tropical area, I'm the fern guy. And if I live anywhere else where it's hot and dry, I'm the cactus guy. Right now I just have tropical houseplants and orchids and tillandsia. Oh yeah, I like Boston fern a lot. The thing is you got to keep them real wet. If I lived in the Pacific Northwest, God bless America, I would have so many. So look, this is Ohia lehua, the Metrosideros polymorpha. Polymorpha because it can have multiple shapes. Do you know Dr. Noah? What's his last name? 00. What is Noah's last? Dr. Noah? I don't remember his last name. Anyway, what he had told me when I first learned about this plant was, oh yeah, this plant, you can get any seed from it, and it might be a shrub or it might be a tree. And it has many shapes. It's in the Myrtleaceae. These are all stamens. These are staminate flowers, a lot of stamens. But yeah, wonderful plant. Yeah, grows directly on basalt. Seabaz, you have an asparagus fern. Cute! You just plant the foot of the rabbit's fern for it to grow. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. That's the stem. So it does best if you try and get roots on it first. I've tried to do that. Eternal ellipsis, where you get just the little stem and grow it, but sometimes it can do as well. Yeah, a beautiful pioneer plant. Ohia lehua. The yellow variant's crazy. I like the red a lot. But yeah, a pioneer plant after a lava flow. Iconic. Are these what is the name for the little pockets in the lava flow? That's the P, right? I forgot. I forgot that I'm a Hawaiian. I haven't used it in 3 or 4 years. Puku? The little pockets? Maybe that's what they're called. But yeah. Yoban, if you were a plant or a flower, what would you be and what type of pollinators would you be? Puka. Yeah, the puka. That's it. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Yoban. Oof. At that present, my answer is a saguaro cactus. If I were to be any plant, if I were a plant in a desert, I'd be a saguaro tree. I'd sit there and stand and wait for the birds to come and pollinate me.